There is a strange silence in the heart of a woman who loves deeply but fears being seen. She may smile in your presence and yet hide storms behind her eyes, hoping you never notice how much your words affect her soul. Love, when mixed with fear, becomes a quiet language of glances, pauses, and unfinished sentences. Some women are not afraid of love itself, but of rejection, misunderstanding, or the possibility of losing the very person who makes their heart awaken. And often, the truest affection is not shouted from rooftops, but concealed beneath ordinary moments that only a discerning spirit can recognize. There are few things more revealing than the way a woman listens when her heart has quietly chosen someone. The world may continue moving around her with all its noise and distraction. Yet when you begin to speak, something within her grows still. It is not merely politeness that keeps her attention fixed upon you. It is affection concealed beneath restraint. A woman secretly in love does not simply hear your words. She treasures them as though they carry fragments of something sacred. Even your ordinary thoughts begin to matter to her in ways you may never fully understand. You will notice that she listens with unusual patience. Most people wait for their turn to speak, but she seems content simply allowing you to continue. Your stories, even the unremarkable ones, become important because they belong to you. A passing comment about your childhood, a dream you mentioned briefly, or a frustration spoken carelessly in a weak moment will remain in her memory long after others have forgotten it. Love gives significance to details that the rest of the world overlooks. What seems small to you may become deeply meaningful to her. Because affection has transformed your voice into something her spirit naturally seeks, there is also a gentleness in the way she responds. She does not mock your ambitions, even when they sound uncertain. She does not dismiss your fears when they reveal weakness. Instead, she treats your inner world carefully, almost protectively. This is because genuine affection creates reverence. A woman who secretly loves you begins to value not only your strengths, but your vulnerabilities as well. She hears the exhaustion hidden behind your confidence. She notices the sadness tucked quietly beneath your laughter. While others react only to your outward appearance, she listens closely enough to recognize the invisible burdens you carry. Often, she will ask questions that seem surprisingly thoughtful, not because she wishes to interrogate you, but because she longs to understand you more deeply. Love naturally desires understanding. She wants to know what shaped you, what wounded you, what inspires you, and what keeps you awake at night when the rest of the world is sleeping. Yet, because fear restrains her from confessing openly, she hides this desire beneath ordinary conversation. Her curiosity becomes disguised as casual interest, though in truth it springs from emotional attachment. There is another subtle sign hidden within her listening. She gives you her full attention, even when she gains nothing from it. In a world where people are constantly distracted, this kind of presence is rare. Many hear words while thinking about themselves, but a woman secretly in love listens with emotional investment. Your victories quietly delight her. Your disappointments affect her mood more than she admits. When you speak about pain, she feels an inward desire to comfort you, even if she lacks the courage to show it openly. Sometimes she may appear unusually quiet around you, and this silence can easily be misunderstood. Yet, silence is often the refuge of deep feeling. She fears saying too much because emotions hidden for too long become difficult to control. So instead, she listens. She studies the rhythm of your thoughts, the tone of your voice, and the meaning behind your expressions. Even your pauses begin to matter to her. A careless observer may think she is merely reserved, but inwardly, she is deeply engaged, holding on to every word while protecting the secret her heart is afraid to reveal, because there are emotions too delicate to survive careless exposure. A woman who secretly loves often learns to guard her heart with silence, yet the eyes remain far more difficult to discipline than the tongue. Words can be withheld, conversation redirected, feelings disguised beneath politeness. But the eyes possess a strange honesty that betrays what the soul longs to conceal. If you pay close attention, you will begin to notice that her gaze carries meanings. Her voice refuses to speak aloud. There are moments when she looks at you without realizing how transparent her expression has become. It may happen while you are speaking passionately about something important to you, or during an ordinary moment when you are unaware of being observed. In those brief seconds, affection softens her entire face. The eyes no longer watch casually. They linger with warmth, admiration, and emotional attentiveness. It is not the cold observation of curiosity, but the tender gaze of someone emotionally invested in your existence. A woman secretly in love often studies you when she believes you are distracted. She notices the smallest changes in your mood, the exhaustion hidden behind your smile, the quiet disappointment you attempt to hide from others. Love sharpens perception. Her eyes become sensitive to things the rest of the world ignores. While others may admire your appearance, she watches for signs of your inner condition. There is concern in her gaze because your emotional state quietly affects her own. And yet, when you suddenly meet her eyes, something curious happens. She quickly looks away, as though caught revealing too much. This sudden retreat is not indifference, it is fear. Fear has a way of interrupting honesty at the very moment it begins to emerge. She worries that if her eyes remain fixed upon you for too long, the feelings she has buried so carefully will become impossible to deny. So she escapes into nervous laughter, lowered eyes, or unnecessary distractions, hoping you have not noticed the tenderness that slipped through her defenses. Sometimes her gaze carries a sadness difficult to explain. Loving in silence is a lonely experience. To care deeply, while pretending not to care at all, creates an inward tension that slowly exhausts the heart. She may watch you, speak with others, and wonder whether you will ever recognize the affection quietly standing before you. Her eyes may hold unspoken questions. She lacks the courage to ask aloud. Does he notice me? Does he feel the same? Am I merely another passing person in his life, while he has become central within mine? These silent fears often reveal themselves through fleeting expressions that vanish almost as quickly as they appear. There is also a kind of admiration hidden within her gaze, not the shallow admiration built merely upon attraction, but something gentler and more profound. When a woman secretly loves you, she begins seeing beauty in places others overlook. Even your imperfections become strangely dear to her. She may smile at habits you consider insignificant, or watch you during ordinary moments with an affection that feels almost protective. Love transforms simple human presence into something precious. What makes her eyes especially revealing is that they often speak during moments when language fails her completely. She may struggle to express affection verbally, fearing rejection or humiliation, but her gaze softens instinctively whenever you are near. The soul frequently confesses through expression, long before the lips gather enough courage to form the truth, and so her eyes continue carrying the burden of emotions. She cannot yet bring herself to speak, revealing fragments of love in every glance. She tries so desperately to control. And because she cannot fully trust herself to reveal what her heart is carrying, she begins seeking safer ways to remain connected to you. Love that is hidden rarely disappears. Instead, it searches for quiet pathways through which it may still draw near. This is why a woman secretly in love often creates small, almost invisible reasons to remain in your presence, even when she pretends those reasons are accidental. She may linger after conversations have naturally ended, extending simple moments longer than necessary because leaving feels strangely disappointing to her. A discussion that should have lasted 5 minutes becomes 30, not because she has urgent matters to discuss, but because your company gives her a sense of comfort she cannot easily abandon. Even silence beside you begins to feel meaningful. Where others quickly move on with their day, she unconsciously searches for excuses to stay close just a little longer. Sometimes these reasons appear so ordinary that they escape notice entirely. She asks unnecessary questions she could easily answer herself. She returns to continue conversations that were already complete. She suddenly remembers small things she forgot to mention. She may offer help where none was requested, not because she seeks praise, but because affection naturally desires involvement. Love longs for nearness, even when fear prevents direct confession. You may notice that she appears wherever you happen to be, with unusual frequency. Not in a calculated or manipulative way, but through subtle patterns, difficult to ignore once seen clearly. She chooses the seat closer to yours. She joins gatherings she might otherwise avoid, simply because she knows you will be there. She finds comfort in shared spaces, even if little interaction occurs between you. To her, proximity itself feels emotionally significant. The human heart often settles quietly near what it treasures. Yet because she fears exposing her true feelings, she disguises this closeness beneath practical explanations. She tells herself and others that it is coincidence, convenience, or harmless friendship. And perhaps part of her genuinely wishes to believe that, for acknowledging deeper emotions would force her to confront the terrifying possibility of rejection. It is safer to remain near you under innocent pretenses than to risk losing your presence entirely by speaking too honestly. There is also a tenderness in the way she notices opportunities to support you. If you are burdened, she quietly offers encouragement. If you mention needing something, she remembers. If you seem distant or troubled, she instinctively moves closer emotionally, even if she lacks the confidence to ask directly what is wrong. A woman secretly in love becomes attentive to your needs in ways that often appear effortless. She does not force herself to care. Concern arises naturally because your well-being has already become connected to her emotional world. What is especially moving is that she often asks for very little in return. Her greatest reward is simply being included in your life, however modestly. A shared conversation, a brief message, a few moments of your attention. These things carry surprising emotional weight for someone silently in love. What others consider ordinary interaction may become the brightest part of her day. Still, beneath all these quiet efforts lies hesitation. She fears becoming too obvious. There are moments when she suddenly withdraws after drawing near, almost as though she regrets allowing her affection to surface. One day she seems warm and present, the next slightly distant and cautious. This inconsistency is not manipulation but internal conflict. Her heart urges closeness, while fear demands protection. She lives suspended between longing and self-preservation, trying desperately to remain near the person she loves without allowing that love to fully expose itself. And so, instead of confessing openly, she begins collecting pieces of you quietly within her memory. A woman who secretly loves does not forget easily. The smallest details about your life become carefully preserved in places within her mind that even she may not fully understand. What others hear casually, she remembers with remarkable clarity, because affection gives permanence to things the heart considers precious. You may mention a favorite song only once, and weeks later she recalls it effortlessly. A passing comment about your childhood, your ambitions, or even the food you dislike remains with her long after everyone else has forgotten. This is not mere attentiveness born from politeness. It is emotional investment. Love listens carefully because it desires to know. Every detail becomes another thread connecting her inwardly to the person occupying her thoughts. Often, she remembers things even you no longer remember saying. A conversation you considered insignificant may continue echoing quietly within her long afterward. She notices dates important to you, stories tied to your past, and the subtle preferences hidden within ordinary conversation. There is something deeply revealing about the way a woman, secretly in love, stores fragments of your identity as though they possess personal value. The heart naturally protects what it cherishes. Sometimes, her memory surprises you. She brings up something you mentioned months ago, something so small you assumed nobody had noticed. Perhaps you once spoke about a difficult day, a dream you abandoned, or a place you wished to visit. To your astonishment, she recalls it with exactness. And while she may laugh softly and dismiss it as coincidence, the truth is far more intimate. People rarely remember details unless emotional significance is attached to them. There is also tenderness in the kind of things she chooses to remember. She does not merely collect impressive achievements or dramatic moments. Often, she treasures the ordinary aspects of your personality, the habits, expressions, and routines that reveal your humanity. She remembers how your voice changes when you are tired. She notices which subjects make your eyes brighten with life. She learns the hidden patterns of your moods, sometimes understanding your emotional state before you speak a single word. What makes this especially beautiful is that her memory becomes a quiet form of care. When someone secretly loves you, remembrance is not passive. It becomes protective. She remembers your struggles because she worries about them. She remembers your disappointments because she wishes she could ease them. She remembers the things that make you smile, because bringing you happiness, quietly, matters to her. Even without openly declaring love, her attention reveals the presence of deep affection. Yet she rarely realizes how transparent this makes her feelings appear. She believes she is hiding successfully behind friendship or casual interaction, unaware that consistent remembrance is itself a confession of emotional attachment. Most people are too consumed with themselves to hold another person's small details so carefully. But love changes the way memory functions. The beloved begins occupying permanent space within thought, and ordinary moments become difficult to forget, simply because they are connected to someone emotionally treasured. Still, fear continues restraining her. She may quickly downplay how much she remembers once you notice it. She avoids making her affection seem obvious, worried that too much attentiveness may expose the truth she has struggled so long to conceal. So she hides sincerity behind humor, simplicity, or casual explanations. But no disguise fully conceals the quiet devotion of a heart that remembers not because it tries to, but because loving someone has made forgetting them impossible. And because the heart clings so strongly to what it secretly loves, it naturally becomes unsettled whenever something threatens that emotional attachment. This is why her jealousy appears, though often in forms so quiet and restrained that many fail to recognize it for what it truly is. A woman secretly in love rarely displays dramatic possessiveness. Her fear of exposing her feelings prevents open confrontation. Instead, her jealousy reveals itself through subtle shifts in mood, delicate changes in expression, and moments of unexpected silence. You may notice it when another woman captures your attention. Suddenly, her warmth becomes quieter. The ease in her voice fades slightly, replaced by a distant politeness she cannot entirely control. She may continue smiling, continue speaking normally, continue pretending everything is unchanged. Yet something beneath the surface has altered. The human heart struggles to remain calm when it senses competition for someone it deeply values. Sometimes she grows unusually observant whenever you mention another woman. A casual story that should mean little begins stirring silent questions within her mind. Who is she to you? Do you admire her? Do you speak to her the same way you speak to me? Yet, because she lacks the courage to ask directly, she hides these emotions behind restrained reactions. Her jealousy does not roar, it whispers. It appears in shortened replies, forced indifference, or sudden attempts to change the subject before her feelings become too visible. There are moments when she may even withdraw emotionally after seeing you connect closely with someone else. Not because she wishes to punish you, but because the experience quietly wounds her more than she expected. Loving in silence creates a peculiar form of suffering. She has no rightful claim upon your affection. Yet, her heart responds as though it does. She cannot openly express hurt without revealing the very feelings she has tried so carefully to conceal. So instead, she retreats inwardly, carrying emotions. She believes she has no permission to speak aloud. What makes her jealousy especially revealing is that it often surprises even her. She may have convinced herself her feelings were harmless, manageable, safely hidden beneath friendship. But the moment another woman enters the picture, her emotional attachment becomes impossible to ignore. Jealousy exposes hidden affection, the way fire reveals invisible writing upon paper. Suddenly she realizes your attention matters to her far more deeply than she wished to admit. Yet even in jealousy, there is sadness more than anger. A woman secretly in love does not simply fear losing your attention. She fears never truly having it at all. She wonders whether she has misunderstood every interaction between you. She questions whether her silent devotion has existed entirely within her own imagination, while your heart remains untouched. This uncertainty creates an ache difficult to describe, because hope and insecurity begin battling within her simultaneously. At times, she may attempt to appear unaffected by speaking positively about other women around you, almost as though proving her indifference to herself. But emotional restraint is exhausting, and small cracks eventually appear. A flicker in her expression, a hesitation in her voice, or an unusual silence after hearing another woman praised, often reveals more than words ever could. Still, because she fears vulnerability, she quickly hides these reactions once she senses they may expose her feelings. She smiles again, changes her tone, and resumes, pretending that nothing inside her has shifted. But love cannot remain perfectly concealed forever. Even the gentlest jealousy carries evidence of emotional attachment, revealing that beneath all her caution and silence exists a heart quietly longing to become the one person your attention naturally seeks above all others. Yet because that longing feels far too dangerous to reveal openly, she begins hiding her emotions behind safer disguises. Friendship becomes her shelter. Humor becomes her protection. Distance becomes the wall she builds whenever her feelings threaten to grow too visible. A woman secretly in love often becomes an expert at concealing affection beneath behaviors the world can easily misinterpret. At times, she acts like nothing more than a loyal friend, convincing herself that remaining close in silence is better than risking complete loss through honesty. She listens to your struggles, encourages your ambitions, laughs beside you, and offers support with quiet consistency, all while carrying emotions much deeper than friendship alone. The tragedy is that she may become so skilled at hiding her feelings that even you begin believing her affection is entirely platonic. Yet beneath her calm exterior, every interaction carries emotional weight she never fully reveals. Humor often becomes another refuge for her hidden heart. She may tease you gently, turn serious moments into jokes, or laugh whenever conversations drift too close to emotional vulnerability. Not because she lacks sincerity, but because humor allows her to express closeness without fully exposing the depth behind it. A playful remark can conceal affection more safely than a direct confession ever could. Sometimes she says things that sound almost romantic, only to quickly disguise them with laughter before you have time to question whether she truly meant them. There is a peculiar sadness in this behavior because she lives constantly divided between expression and concealment. Part of her longs to speak honestly, while another part fears the consequences of being known too clearly. So she hides truth inside harmless gestures, hoping perhaps that you will somehow understand, without forcing her to risk rejection openly. Then there are moments when she suddenly becomes distant for reasons that seem confusing to you. One day, she is warm, attentive, emotionally present. The next, she withdraws, behind coldness or silence, as though something invisible has changed between you. This distance is rarely caused by lack of feeling. In fact, it often emerges because her emotions have become too intense to manage comfortably. A woman secretly in love sometimes pulls away, not because she cares less, but because she cares too much. She fears becoming emotionally exposed. She worries that her affection is growing obvious. She senses herself becoming vulnerable to disappointment and instinctively retreats in order to protect what remains of her emotional stability. Distance becomes a temporary shield against the frightening uncertainty of loving someone who may not feel the same. You may notice that, after particularly meaningful conversations, she grows quieter afterward. Moments of emotional closeness linger within her mind long after they end, stirring hopes she struggles to control. And because hope can become painful when uncertain, she occasionally creates space between you and herself, trying to regain the emotional balance she feels slipping away. Yet, even during these periods of distance, traces of affection remain impossible to erase completely. She still notices you. She still listens when you speak. She still reacts subtly to your attention or absence. No matter how carefully she hides, the heart continues revealing itself in fragments too small for her to control entirely. What makes this concealment so exhausting is that she is constantly performing emotional restraint. Every smile must be measured. Every interaction must remain safe enough to avoid suspicion. She must appear calm when inwardly affected, indifferent when secretly hopeful, casual when emotionally invested. And over time, this quiet struggle begins wearing upon her spirit. For there is something deeply tiring about loving someone while pretending that love does not exist at all. And perhaps the deepest sorrow within her silence is this: she is not truly afraid of speaking the words themselves, but of what those words might destroy if they are not returned. A woman who secretly loves you often remains silent because your response holds enormous power over her emotional world. When affection grows deep, vulnerability becomes terrifying. To confess love is to place one's heart into another person's hands without certainty of gentleness. She has likely imagined the moment countless times. In quiet hours, she wonders what would happen if she finally allowed honesty to overcome fear. Perhaps she imagines you smiling with the same hidden affection she has carried for so long. Perhaps she imagines relief washing over her after months of emotional restraint. But alongside these hopeful visions come darker possibilities she cannot easily silence. What if you pull away? What if your kindness changes? What if the connection she treasures disappears entirely after the truth is spoken aloud? This fear becomes especially powerful because she values your presence too deeply to risk losing it carelessly. Remaining silently close to you feels safer than gambling everything upon one uncertain confession. Even if friendship quietly wounds her at times, it still allows her to remain part of your life. But rejection threatens exile from the emotional place she has grown attached to. And so she chooses silence, not because her feelings are weak, but because they are painfully strong. There are moments when you may sense her almost confessing. Her words slow down. Her expression softens with unusual seriousness. It feels as though something important is trembling just beneath the surface, searching desperately for courage. Yet suddenly she changes the subject, laughs nervously, or retreats behind ordinary conversation again. Fear interrupted honesty at the final moment. What she fears most is not humiliation alone, but emotional transformation. Love changes relationships permanently once spoken aloud. Before confession, hope can still survive within imagination. After confession, reality arrives with irreversible clarity. If you do not feel the same, she can no longer hide safely inside uncertainty. The fragile world she quietly built around your presence collapses all at once. This is why she studies your behavior so carefully before ever considering vulnerability. She searches for signs, for reassurance, for evidence that her feelings may not be entirely one-sided. Every gesture from you acquires enormous emotional significance. A kind message can fill her with hope for days. A moment of coldness can convince her to bury her emotions forever. Because she cares so deeply, even small interactions begin shaping the emotional future she imagines between you. And yet, despite all this fear, her love continues revealing itself indirectly. Human emotions are difficult to imprison completely. The affection in her eyes, the attention in her listening, the tenderness in her memory, the quiet jealousy, the hidden longing for closeness, all these become fragments of a confession she cannot fully voice. Her entire behavior begins speaking on behalf of the words she is too afraid to say directly. What makes her silence especially tragic is that she may convince herself you would never understand her feelings, while at the same time leaving countless traces of them everywhere around you. Love hidden too long begins leaking through ordinary moments, despite every effort to contain it. And often, the woman who fears confession the most is the one whose heart has already revealed itself 1,000 different ways without realizing it.